Greetings and welcome to the Saco City Council meeting for Monday, September 11, 2023. Call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Let the record reflect that all councilors are present. With that, we'd like to invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Under item 4 this evening, General, I would just like to take a moment of silence to remember the 22nd anniversary of 9/11 in collaboration with the state, Governor Mills, and President Biden. So please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. With that, we will move on to item 5 of the agenda, and that is committee correspondence to council. Any committee correspondence this evening? Councilor McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to throw out and remind everybody that we are in the last couple of weeks of the book sale at the Dyer Library, and all books at this time are free. So come on in, fill up your bags, boxes, help us clean out so that we can get ready for new donations for next year. And again, we've got a couple of more weeks, and it runs during the regular library hours.
Thank you. Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to provide an update on behalf of Saco Main Street in my role as liaison. They wish to update council and the public that they've applied for numerous grants over the last few months, including a $49,000 grant from T-Mobile to beautify Front Street Park in collaboration with Parks and Rec, a $3,500 general operating grant from the Alfred and Dorothy Susie Osher Foundation, a $5,000 general operating grant from the Bank of Maine Charitable Foundation. They've also applied for a grant to support the River Recreation Program in collaboration with Parks and Rec. They are also receiving, these are grants that will come, $6,500 in administrative support from the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Grant and $15,000 from SMPDC over the next 2 years. They've reached out to Gene Saunders and Lynn Steed at Age Friendly to increase collaborations, and they are planning a family fun color run on October 1st. The director of Saco Main Street has also been appointed to the Historic Preservation Commission to help build collaboration between those two organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further committee correspondence? Moving on to item 6 in public comment. If there's any member of the public who would like to address the City Council, please come forward and be heard. Please state your name and address into the mic for record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I guess I'll be the one to start it off. So, Kelly Archer, 185 Bradley Street. I am addressing the herd of elephants in the room, namely the citizens' grievance petition. To those in the audience and/or on live stream, I have had communications with city officials with my last response to the interim city administrator and the council this afternoon. The exchange is lengthy, therefore I am and have requested that email with the attachment, along with Mr. Duas's 9/7 email response to me, to be made part of tonight's official record and to be added to the entirety to the council's official minutes for full transparency and disclosure as to why city officials, namely this mayor, has not placed this grievance petition on the council agenda for their deliberations and scheduling of this standalone special meetings public hearing to be noticed by the city clerk for our constitutional right to be heard by this council per Charter 8.01 and the city attorney 71323 opine outline as to procedure process of this special hearing to the city clerk. For those who don't know, a grievance petition was officially filed on 8/11/2023. The city clerk verified the required number of signatures and that we met the criteria of Charter 801 to be heard to the city administrator and to be heard and presented to the city administrator and mayor on 8/16/2023. The petitioners who filed such documents, Inga Sanvos Brown and myself, were never notified by anyone that the 8/16 verification had invoked the Charter 8.01 general meeting process until the clerk's 9/6 reply to my 9/5 email inquiry. The grievance petition has not been added to the 8/21 council meeting nor tonight's council agenda. I am requesting that the council unanimously apply the rules of order of business, section X, paragraph 4, items not on the agenda, and perform their duties and obligations when it is personally clear to me that the mayor does not want the citizens' right to petition to be heard or deliberated by this council in a timely manner. Please use the council discussion time tonight for deliberation and for scheduling of this standalone special meeting public hearing. And to reiterate, as what I've in my email, as the city attorney is a party to this grievance, please consider legal advice from another source, be it in this public forum or possibly in an executive session if warranted. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any other member of the public who would like to address the council, please come forward and be heard.
Good evening. I'm Inga Brown, and I live at 161 Simpson Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I echo all of the statements that Ms. Archer has laid out to you here at the podium. I also I am in agreement with her letter that she has submitted to Interim City Administrator Duras. I hope that you've had a chance to review it. I would like to bring to your attention the opinion that Mr. Murphy supplied to the city clerk on July 13th, 2023. I believe you've seen this opinion. I believe that the tone of Mr. Murphy's opinion is very clear. It is very direct to the directions to the clerk. In all actuality, the tone of his opinion is almost rather breezy. And what I mean by that is that the process is clear, and in part, he says to the city clerk, the request can be a simple letter, and it can be circulated and signed by any 50 voters, but they must be persons qualified to vote presumptively in Saco, meaning Saco residents. The letter should state the purpose of the general meeting as well. This way, your office can not only complete its review and affirm the 50 qualified voters, but you would need to conclude that the request meets the requirements of purpose as set forth above, i.e., it must be for one of the 3 reasons listed in the charter. Assuming that the test is met, you would deliver the conclusion to the city council, and they would, at their next regular meeting, schedule the subsequent general meeting. So that's an excerpt from his opinion on the 13th. I believe that the grievance public hearing, the standalone public hearing, must be scheduled. I am alarmed that it is not on the agenda tonight for your discussion and review. I am equally alarmed of the non-communication, the toxic stonewalling, and the absolute letdown of the leadership of this fair city in leading us into the dark and not forward into the light. The citizens of this community are very engaged, they are very passionate, they are very honest, they are very forthright, and we stand on facts. And the fact of the matter is that the grievance petition was filed correctly and appropriately, and we are asking for the correct and appropriate response this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any other member of the public that would like to address the city council, please come forward and be heard. With nobody seeking recognition, moving on from public comment to item 7, approval of the minutes for August 21st, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Councilor Hatch, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Any discussion on the minutes for August 21st? Roll call vote on the minutes. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item 8, the consent agenda. There are 3 items. Item A, confirmation of mayor's reappointment to the Coastal Water Commission for Jim Katz, Lenny Harrell, and Richard Millard. Item B, confirmation of mayor's appointment to the Conservation Commission of Nadia Crockett Current, and confirmation of mayor's appointment to the Recreation Advisory Board for Drew Maxey. Any motion on the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Councilor Johnston, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Any discussion? Roll call on the consent agenda. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item 9, action items on page 7, item A, fiscal year 2023 investment report for council, assigned to Councilor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. The City of Saco's investment policy mandates an annual presentation to council of any investment activity. The city will have a brief presentation from our investment advisor, followed by a motion to accept.
Good evening. Nice to see everyone again. The strategy is quite simple. I'm assuming that everyone received the summary and that everyone read that. So we are continuing to implement the U.S. Treasury strategy. Just to highlight in the strategy, 100% of the portfolio is in U.S. Treasury securities between 3 months out into next fiscal year. They're all individual securities with defined maturity dates and fixed rates. And we have a small amount in a money market, which is also a Treasury money market. Rates have been slowly going up. Actually, not slowly, but in the last 3 years, slowly, but recently, quite a lot. We've captured that, and I think that the finance department's report will highlight the excess interest income. My expectation for this fiscal year through June 30, 2024, is that we will be able to maintain a fairly stable cash flow as it relates to rates. In the short term, we'll stay short term. We will not exceed the next fiscal year at this time because of the uncertainty with interest rates. Any questions, concerns, or thoughts?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't have anything to add, but pending council motion to accept, I can then move on to the next agenda item.
Thank you. Councilor Hatch, do you have a motion?
I do. Be it ordered that council accept the fiscal year 2023 investment report. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item B on page 36 in your packet, a fiscal year 2023 end-of-year review, and we'll hear from Glennis Ellis, the Budget Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the numbers I'm presenting this evening are a preliminary review of our end-of-year financial position. We are currently going through the city's annual audit. The auditors are on site this week, and we may have some additional adjusting entries that could move these numbers around. However, I would anticipate there will not be a significant change to what you're seeing this evening. The city of Saco ended fiscal year 2023 in a strong financial position. The undesignated fund balance is projected to be 19.81% of the following year's budget, which represents a surplus of $2.2 million. This number may change as final adjustments are made per the annual audit. After budgeted use of fund balance for fiscal year 2024, the Finance Office anticipates $1.86 million surplus available for council designation at the presentation of the annual audit in January. Going through the expenditure side, City of Saco expenses were $13,011 below appropriated amounts. Capital projects, code enforcement, communications, county tax, fringe benefits, human resources, information technology, planning, public works, school budget, and supported entities were all considered on target because they were at or below budget by less than 5%. I'll go through the details on the other departments. Assessing was 11% below budget. Contracted services were lower than budgeted due to the department restructuring, which removed the shared contracted assessor with Biddeford. City administration was 4% over budget. The city administrator final payout pushed the department over budget. City clerk was 8% under budget. This is related to general assistance. We've talked about this throughout the year. Use of general assistance funds were below budget for the year. This is offset by lower than budgeted payments from the state. Contingency was 28% below budget. The senior tax assistance program was lower than budgeted. This line will likely be soft again in fiscal year 2024, but we might see some more heavy utilization in fiscal year 2025. As some of you may be aware, the senior tax freeze program that the state passed last year has been removed, and instead of that program, the state has beefed up the property tax fairness credit, which the city does a 100% match for. So I would anticipate a more significant use of those funds for 2025 when those residents come off of the tax freeze program. Council was 24% below budget. Miscellaneous supplies, travel, training, all underutilized in fiscal year 23. Finance department was 5% over budget. Software services came in higher than anticipated. The city has worked with our payroll provider to negotiate a more significant discount for fiscal year 2024, and we're closely monitoring fees as they come in. There was also a billing delay for the fiscal year 2020 audit final billing, which meant that an additional payment to our auditors hit in fiscal year 2023 rather than 2022. Fire and ambulance came in 3% over budget. Departmental staffing challenges meant that overtime came in $157,050 over budget. Insurance was 3% over budget. The insurance premium was higher than anticipated for fiscal year 2023, but still lower if the city had not gone to market back in the spring of 22. Parks and Rec is 6% over budget. We've had higher than anticipated participation, which has led to higher programming costs for equipment and supplies. Additionally, there were some staffing challenges, which meant that there was heavier than anticipated use of contracted services. This was more than offset by $236,930 in additional rec fees, which came in on the revenue side. Police department came in 7% under budget. This is due to ongoing staffing shortages. The department had significantly lower than budgeted base pay. We have encumbered significant amounts to complete the RMS IMC CAD project, as well as to cover the cost of some much-needed departmental equipment upgrades. Solicitor came in 8% under budget. The city has had less heavy use of legal partners in this fiscal year and recognized some savings through the use of contracted HR services for internal investigations. TIF transfers were 7% over budget. TIF transfers are set by the TIF valuation and mill rate amounts. TIF transfers were higher upon commitment than anticipated during the budget process. I do want to put a thank you out there to our senior staff who worked tirelessly throughout the year to maintain a close eye on their budgets. The expenditure side, for sure, is a partnership with all of our department heads, and they've done an excellent job in this very challenging fiscal year. Are there any questions?
Councilor Purdy.
I do, but I can wait till the end.
Fair enough.
All right, I will tee over to the revenue side then. Revenues were extremely strong in fiscal year 2023. Total revenues exceeded forecasts by $2.3 million. I would say probably a banner year. Capital projects, fire ambulance fees, insurance, planning, real estate taxes, and unallocated revenues were all on target because they were within 5% of budgeted amounts. Building rentals, 35% behind budget. We did have some write-offs on building rentals that went back several years, so that offset our revenue amount. City clerk was 8% behind budget. Again, this has to do general assistance. Because we had fewer expenditures, we had less offsetting revenue from the state. Code enforcement was 13% ahead of budget. We had a couple of large projects which hit in the last month of the year. Communications fees are 8% below budget. We are seeing some steady decline on our franchise fees. This is likely related to fewer cable subscriptions. Finance fees were 12% below budget. This is primarily tax and lien interest. Tax and lien interest was set at the lower rate of 4% fiscal year 2023. This amount should bounce back in fiscal year 24, where we have returned to a more sort of normal rate of 8%. Touching on ambulance fees, transfers from the ambulance fund were at the budgeted amount of $415,000 that council approved for fiscal year 23. However, total revenues for fiscal year did go over $1 million for the first time. Interest earnings, and we just heard from our investment advisor, we had one of the best years, I think the best year on record for interest earnings, $834,854. About 50% of that was due to our investment strategy with our partners at Morgan Stanley, and the other half was due to interest earnings on our repurchase agreement with Bangor Savings Bank. Miscellaneous transfers, we did close out the final balance on the 2016 energy bond, and that required an additional transfer of $15,387. Parks and Rec, 22% over budgeted amount for fees. Again, participation in programming exceeded expectations. We had another banner year there. Police Department fees were 11% below budget. We had some anticipated revenues from a shared security officer with Thornton Academy. We were not able to engage that partnership due to our staffing challenges. A loss of revenue there is more than offset by savings on the base pay line. Public Works revenues, which are mostly excise fees on vehicles, were 15% over budget. Excise fees on vehicles exceeded budget by 14%, and transfer station fees actually were also high, exceeding budget by 25%. State assistance was 14% over budget. Not only did the state fulfill its 5% obligation in terms of revenue sharing, but they also had a banner year due to inflation. As inflation pushes prices higher, your flat 7% sales tax also reaps more revenue. And lastly, use of fund balance. This placeholder notates $852,800 planned use of fund balance. Because of our strong performance on taxes, state assistance, and interest earnings, the unassigned fund balance actually went up this year rather than down. Lastly, in terms of grants, the city has recognized $30,345 in grant-covered expenses and $32,295 in related revenues in the general fund in '23. The city recognized $535,562 in grant-covered expenses and $304,109 in related revenues in all other funds in '23. $530,905 has been expended from the ARPA distribution to date. Are there any questions on this report?
Thank you. Councilor Purdy.
Thank you. So, at the beginning portion of your presentation, the last line, the Finance Office anticipates $1.86 million available for council designation in January. Because the TIF transfers didn't pass few weeks ago, which, for lack of a better term, I'll say a shortfall in the budget of somewhere probably around $2.2 million, which obviously is going to increase the tax bills for this year. Can this $1.86 million somehow be used to offset, like I said, for lack of a better term, the shortfall that since the TIF transfers didn't pass?
There is a provision in the ordinance related to a tax stabilization fund. My recommendation would be to use the funds for fiscal year 2025 and that budget process to bring perhaps the tax appropriation to level set or to assist in altering the ratio of general fund appropriations versus TIF transfers. However, we did have to commit based on what the TIF valuations were without any transfer amounts. And so the tax bills are what they are at this point in time.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it could be somehow appropriated in January so that the second part of the tax bill might not be as big. You know, I mean, so the total, like I said, I'm just asking questions because I don't know the legal answers.
That would be at council's discretion. I am going to recommend that council consider that use of unassigned fund balance can be used for any purpose versus TIF transfers, which are severely limited. And so that's a consideration to make where there's an opportunity here with a large amount of surplus to make a decision on how we expend those funds. Essentially, were we to use them to reduce the second half tax bills in this fiscal year, we would be taking funds that could be used for any purpose and offsetting funds that are extremely limited. So that is something for council to consider when we think about how to use these funds.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that they go back into the TIF funds and be restricted in that sense. I was just suggesting trying to make up for the difference in what was budgeted versus, you know, what actually is being transferred this year. But thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. Glennis, just a couple of quick questions for you. Looking at the fire ambulance, taking pride in the over $1 million, how much of that, in your estimation, was related to the improvements that we made to billing and collections?
I would say, I think ambulance service calls go up a little bit every year, maybe 5%, maybe 10%. But, we were looking at 700,000 a year before, so that only accounts for maybe a third. I would say most of this has to do with a really tight process around accounts receivable, having a strong partner, working with our commercial payers to get those payments right away, and some process improvements we've made with Quick Med claims.
Good, thank you. That's what I was hoping you were going to tell me, so thank you. And then you made the comment linking the interest earnings to our our relationship with Morgan Stanley. So I'm pleased to see this. It's likely that absent of that, we would have fallen into the old paradigm of really missing opportunities to earn money on our own money. So I appreciate the effort that's going on there as well. Last comment or question. On the Public Works line, the excise fees up 14%, and the transfer station fees up 25%. Is it safe to rationalize that the excise fees are likely due to the fact that we may have new residents with additional vehicles, but the cost of vehicles has mushroomed quite significantly over the last few years? Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, this is primarily due to the rising cost of new vehicles.
And at some point, that may hopefully level off so that we don't continue as consumers to have to pay exorbitant amounts of money for new vehicles. And then the transfer station fees, is that the result of more usage and not necessarily any increases in fees? Do we increase our fees at all on that?
No, we did not increase our fees. That has to do with increased utilization, when people are gutting a home, that's a significant transfer station usage or moving, that kind of thing.
Interesting. Great, thanks.
Any further questions? Thank you for your presentation. Moving on to item C, on page 40 in your packet, a public hearing, LD 2003 Housing Ordinance Revisions, assigned to Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council hosted housing workshops on February 27th and June 12th to discuss ordinance revisions that would be required to comply with LD 2003 and act to implement the recommendations of the Commission to increase housing opportunities in Maine by studying zoning and land use restrictions. The purpose of this set of ordinance revisions is for general compliance with LD 2003. Planning staff has shared these proposed revisions with city staff, the Planning Board, and the Long Range Planning Committee. The Planning Board hosted its public hearing on August 15th, and its report is enclosed. I move to open the public hearing for the Chapter 230 LD 2003 Housing Ordinance Revisions.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Gunn, second by Councilor Berman, to open the public hearing. Any discussion on opening the public hearing? Roll call vote to open the public hearing. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to open the public hearing at 7:02 p.m. With that, I would like to invite anybody that would like to speak on this matter to please come forward and be heard. State your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, Mayor Doyle and councilors. My name is Kathy Porter. I live at 13 Ocean Greens Drive in Saco, that's Ward 4, and LDR zone. I'm here to talk about the question that is specifically related to changing the zoning laws for LDR to permit multifamily housing projects and, as a result, affordable housing developments in LDR. I understand that you're going to be having a vote maybe in the near future, and that each one of you will be asked to vote on that for or against those two changes to the draft of the zoning laws. I urge you to vote no and no. Currently, LDR does not permit multifamily housing projects. This request for change comes with a rationale to be fair and equal to all parts of Saco, hooked up to city sewer and water. But isn't this why we have zoning districts in the first place? All land within Saco is not equal. The comprehensive plan calls for density where people have the ability to walk to stores and reliable public transportation, to health services and to jobs. That's not the case in LDR along Ferry Road. The comprehensive plan also calls for stewardship and protecting the fragile resources in all of Saco that are very easily and irrevocably destroyed by overdevelopment. When you look at the Saco zoning map, you will see very clearly that the LDR along Ferry Road is totally surrounded by protected natural resources. The comprehensive plan also defines in-town low density will continue to be residential neighborhoods with minimal change anticipated. Some growth may occur. Am I up?
You're up, but please finish your.
Small
last
increments,
statement.
but these areas are not intended to accommodate any significant portion of future demand. Sensitive natural areas should be preserved. I would submit that permitting multifamily housing projects and the subsequent permission of affordable housing developments with its double density requirements does not fall within the guidelines of the LDR definition. LDR is already complying with ADUs to increase available housing. And I'm here to ask you to vote no on permitting both multifamily housing projects and affordable housing with LDR and its double density. This question should not be decided by one parameter. There are a number of parameters. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any other member of the public that would like to address the city council, please come forward and be heard. Please state your name and address for the record.
Mike Bolduc, 7 Peabody Lane, Saco. I understand that the council's considering modifying the LD 2003 housing ordinance to include the affordable housing as a permitted use and multifamily as a conditional use. I'm opposed to this because it's inconsistent with the draft comprehensive plan, and the existing infrastructure is not sufficient in that ward to accommodate more intense development. 3 main issues. The first one being transit issues. There are only 3 major access points into that ward. 2 of them have low bridges that can create a safety hazard. The other one is subject to flooding and storm surge. That is something that's addressed in the comprehensive plan about how we deal with increasing rising water levels in the Saco Bay. It won't flood the bridge, but it'll flood around the bridge and from and back at the swamp. Additionally, Ferry Road is a collector road, state road, Route 9. It has substandard conditions. It does not have any bike paths whatsoever. I mean, the fog line is painted right on the side of the pavement. The sidewalks are substandard. They're only on one side of the street. Now, if you're lucky enough to be on the side of the street that the sidewalk's on, that's not too bad. But the other side of the road, there are no crosswalks to get to the other side. There was one at Atlantic Heights. That's not there anymore. So pedestrian and bike traffic is an issue. It's addressed in the comprehensive plan as something that has to be done. It was rated quite highly in the comprehensive plan. I know of no plans to address that in the near future. Think about this. If you had a fire, a major forest fire, you have the potential to have one or more of those access routes to this ward blocked. Only 2 of them go into only one of them goes into Saco. The other 2 go into Old Orchard Beach. So it's a safety hazard, and more intense development is going to only exacerbate that problem. Stormwater issues is the other major problem. Rising sea levels that we expect to happen identified in the comp plan. catch basins in Camp Ellis are at elevation 13 at the intersection of the Ferry Road and Seaside Avenue, which means that during the storm surge, and we've seen it happen before, the river and the ocean will actually surge into the storm system and back up, restricting access into that ward. Additional impervious areas will also increase runoff to sensitive wetlands. And finally, the water issue. That's a main water company that has the distribution system. And they are replacing their system at a rate of 2% a year, which is a standard thing, but for a long time, water systems weren't addressed in this town in any real significant manner. Down there in Camp Ellis, a lot of the lines were 2-inch galvanized, serving some of those side streets off Seaside. Maybe they've all been addressed now, but I'm thinking probably not. So, in conclusion, I guess I would say that consistency and equity are something that we should all strive for as a goal. But without a plan to address some of the infrastructure needs in this ward, I'd say we're not ready for it yet, and I would ask the council to consider waiting until such time as the infrastructure needs in this ward are addressed before making those changes. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any other member of the public that would like to address the city council, please come forward and be heard.
Robert Dunn, 8 Richards Way in Saco, also a member of Ward 4. I'd like to talk about LD 2009 and also indicate that I'm not in favor of permitting affordable housing or multi-family developments in an LDR. I'd like to talk a little bit about Ward 4. Ferry Road gets heavy vehicle traffic, especially during the summer months, with tourism, summer residents, beachgoers, and also people who are on their way to Camp Ellis, Ferry Beach State Park, and the Atlantic Ocean. The nearest grocery store is more than 3 to 5 miles away, depending on where you are located in the ward. We have no major job sources other than Atlantic Heights, and don't have any health service facilities in the ward, a consideration in the comprehensive plan, which everyone signed on to for the good of Saco. Ferry Road, Route 9, is a 2-lane roadway with no established shoulders. When cars or trucks are parked on the side of the road, traffic is reduced to 1 lane. This includes deliveries, garbage pickup, mail, visitors, and other events, etc. It is the only access that residents have to the center of Saco without going through Old Orchard Beach via Old Orchard Road or Ocean Park. The heavy use of the roadway by bicyclists, especially during the summer tourist months, creates a safety hazard. Ferry Road has no room for a bike path on either side of the road. It's not only bikers, but motorists as well, who are required by state law to maintain 3 feet of side distance from any cyclist. Biking on the sidewalk is impractical because of the number of pedestrians and children who use the sidewalk, as well as the number of side streets emerging on the roadway. While there are a number of sidewalks, while there is a single sidewalk on the large portion of Ferry Road, there are few sidewalks on the connecting streets and no sidewalks beyond Bayview. Ferry Road is the principal access to emergency vehicles coming from Saco. Valued time would be lost if they had to come around and access the area from Old Orchard Beach or Ocean Park. There are few crosswalks on Ferry Road, which is a state highway and requires state action for any change. There is no reliable public transportation in Ward 4. The buses don't run here, and there is no taxi service. Oversized trucks cannot access the area due to height limits for the railroad bridges on both Beach Street and Old Ocean Road. The Camp Ellis Fire Station relies on on-call firemen and is not it is not staffed on a full-time basis. I ask you to vote no on permitting or conditionally approving affordable housing and multifamily developments for LDRs in the city of Saco. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rich Hewer. I live on 22 Ocean Greens Drive in Saco. I've spoken before you all before on this subject, and I'm going to do it again here tonight. I try to go out of my way to be respectful. I know that all of you put a lot of time and effort into your jobs here, and I appreciate that. And I want to again recognize Emily Cole Prescott for all the work she's done. It's exemplary the way she explains and has dug into these rules that are very complicated. I know this is a very complicated matter, and I don't understand it perhaps as well as anybody in this room, but I wanted to think about the fact, first I wanted to make sure you were aware I do live in the LDR zone in Ward 4. And I do want to talk about the environmental concerns today. But I also wanted to think about the fact that I'm the fourth person from this ward to speak. I don't know if anybody else is going to. I know there's other people that I've talked to in the ward that are against this. And so I realize that you all have a fiduciary responsibility to do what you think is best for the town, and I respect that. But on the other hand, if people in a particular ward feel strongly about not doing something, I wonder why you want to go ahead and do it. And the reason for doing it is because an idea was floated, which has value and has merit, that it should be shared equally. But as Kathy said, not all land is equal, not all areas are equal, and that's not the way the world works. So if it doesn't make sense, I don't know why we're going to force it. We're going to have more dwellings in Ward 4, just like every ward, because of the ADUs. And so I realize there's some already in Ward 4, and there's some in other parts of the town. And I don't know that that's going to explode as to the number of people. I know there's some estimates as how much that's going to be, but there will be more people living in Ward 4. So my suggestion is, why not wait and see how that works, work in the other areas of the town. Perhaps Ward 4 could be rezoned. Maybe parts of the LDR are more susceptible and have more ability to have these multifamily housing. But it seems to me that we're risking our natural resources. We're risking our town resources, as have been pointed out by the other speakers, just because of this idea. And so I implore you all to vote no on this matter, and that I wanted to address one other thing, and that is, it's been said in meetings, and it's valid, that, well, there's really no area in Ward 4 or in the LDR to develop. Said, well, that may be true. I don't know that it's true for sure. But if you put something on the books that could happen, even though it might not happen now, things can change, and all of a sudden the development is done in Ward 4, in the LDR, that nobody really wanted and nobody really expected. So I don't know why, again, we want to take that chance. So thank you for your time, and I guess that's it for now.
Thank you. If there's any other member of the public that would like to speak to the council, please come forward and be heard.
Evening, Ron Michaud from Bayview Road in Saco. Been a while since I've been here. Let me just start from the beginning and say, as a community, we're facing something that's state mandated. I'm not surprised about it because they talked about exclusionary zoning But after having spent 30 years in local government, this is not a community that's exercised exclusionary zoning. We've been a leader in looking at affordable housing units. We've looked at our development, the downtown. You look at Saco Island as a prime example. What we've done as a community to provide housing. You look at what's happening on Route 1, northern Route 1, about high-density housing. So we've done our part. We stood up and made the community as affordable as possible. What you're looking at, to me, is, as spending 8 years on the planning board, is diffusing intense development throughout the community is really not, I think, a good planning concept. What you're doing is you're going to be putting further demands for city services in areas that can't meet all those city services. In Ward 4, for example, it took forever to get Bayview Road a sidewalk, and that's only because the state did it. We still have a bike path on a ferry road that's 40, 50 years old now that's basically hard to maintain. The minute you start diffusing high-intensity housing throughout the community, you're in fact creating a disincentive to affordable housing because the community demands for services will increase. Therefore, the city will have to meet those demands, and the taxes will go up, and property will become even less affordable. It's sort of a circle. Intense housing should be provided where the facilities are there. You grow from the center out, not from the outside in. The equity issue about having affordable housing throughout the communities is one we should be sensitive to, but I don't agree with the argument it has to be everywhere. In fact, I think it's exactly the wrong way to look at it. Look at it, put it where it needs to be, where it should be, not because we want to discriminate against individuals, because we want to think of our children and grandchildren who will be sitting there someday saying, how am I going to put this sidewalk in? What am I going to do with the road with? How am I going to deal with this intense housing now that we put this project where it didn't belong? We dealt with that, and we still will always deal with that as a community. But this is your chance to avoid doing that unnecessarily. We as a community should be proud of what we've done in providing housing for our community, affordable as best as can be. The market has a lot to do with it, as much as you may try to deal with it. The market is probably the biggest player in it. But please don't make the conditions worse for future generations by dispersing it throughout the community without thinking about what are the long-term impacts of doing that dispersal. It isn't, I want to discriminate against folks, but I want to make sure my children and their children could live in this community affordably because we're using rational development rather than just this, I want to be fair to everybody, but it's not rational to do it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any other member of the public that would like to address the city council on this issue, please come forward and be heard.
Hi, I'm Kelly Archer, 185 Bradley Street, and this one is a tough one. It's state mandated on us, and you, the decision makers, are going to have to decide. And I think the most controversial one is what's been presented right now. It is Ward 4. My family had lived on Ferry Road for over 25 years. So I know the issues then of everything that all these people have said. And I know that it's exacerbated now in 2023, as is all of Saco. And I am also talking about everything that they said, except for the ocean and the entrance and exit out of Ward 4. We don't have that in Ward 5. But we have the infrastructure, we have the natural resources, we have all those arguments, and we are being inundated by too much growth, and it needs to slow down, and smart growth decisions need to happen. I will get to, I have witnessed the council's 626 new business, 710 first reading, 814 revision info session, 815 planning board meeting, and the planning board's 9-5 recommendation to city council in regards to LD 2003, along with the council workshops this year. I was an appointed member of the zoning revision committee. I know of the other residential districts that have sewer and water. I've already said a couple of things, but as a proponent, and again, I'm being very respectful to the board people that are saying that. I do believe in fair and equitable. You've seen that over 5 years. But reasonable and effective. I am in favor of affordable housing as a permitted use and multifamily residential and project as a permitted uses for more than 8 and 8 per building in the Saco Island District. I'm in favor of adding ADUs as the permitted use in the Portland Road District and conditional use on multi up to 8 and affordable housing being permitted, but without any conditions whatsoever in the LDR. As I witnessed at all of these meetings, I am concerned, even up to the last Tuesday's planning board meeting, whereupon at the 626 new business meeting, Councillor Hatch mentions LDR to be debated for inclusion for affordable housing or multifamily residential in the LDR. At the 710 council meeting, Councillor Hatch referenced comp plan goals policies of 3.1, 3.1b, 3.1c, and table 3.3 with permitted and conditional uses. I am concerned on last week, the council requests were unheeded by the planner, and then last Tuesday, the LD 2003 presentation slide did not have LDR listed for planning board robust discussion. That would have never happened as far as the LDR. Saco Island and Portland Road definitely happened, if not for Mr. Biggs. So I do want to thank Mr. Biggs for bringing this subject of the LDR district up for that robust discussion it deserved in regards to LD 2003. As you know, that they were in a quandary about this last particular one. God bless you all. Sorry about that one, but bless you on what you have to do with this. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any other member of the public that would like to address the city council on this item, please come forward and be heard.
Richard Karen, 4 Peabody Lane.
I'm sorry, Richard, what was that?
Richard Karen, 4 Peabody Lane.
Thank you.
I'm concerned with the traffic down there on Ferry Road. Since I moved there in '86, it wasn't bad when I first moved there in '86, but I've been there over 30-some years, and I've never seen traffic on that road like it is now. There is so much traffic. It's dangerous. It's dangerous from the side streets. It's dangerous coming off the Old Orchard Road into Ferry Road. It's dangerous heading down Old Orchard Road into Old Orchard, anybody that's traveled that. But at times, especially in the summertime, you can't get over to Ferry Road because you can't get access because there's so many people churning. There's no lights there. But the road is so traveled, and in the summertime, there's so much traffic. It's hard for people to walk. It's hard for children to bike, to cross. It's almost dangerous. It's dangerous even for the school buses. And the traffic just keeps getting worse and worse as more and more housing is coming in. And if you go to multifamily housing, I don't know what that's gonna do to your traffic pattern. I don't know much about water, sewer, and electrical systems, and I know the storms are getting worse and worse every year. And I go down to Camp Ellis and Ferry Beach, and I see more and more of that disappearing. And I think you've got to look at all that stuff. But I am concerned about the traffic in that part of Saco, and nobody's addressing that. And that there is limited access to that part of the city. And I think we've got concern for our citizens and our children in that area. And I think you should look at that as our representatives. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Last call.
Hi, my name is Karen Lemoyne, and I live at 25 Ocean Greens Drive. I didn't intend to speak tonight, but hearing what everybody had to say, I think that, I guess, I'm kind of just getting in the fray on it. And what confuses me, and maybe I'm wrong, is that the city with the planning and all that has always had certain clearly a vision for the city. And it feels like I get the state law piece to have some more housing, and you can have the dwelling, and you can have, in-laws live there or rent it out, whatever. But it seems like to go from, okay, we'll accept that, to this big leap to now this tiny little half-acre lot that he was very restricted about what kind of house you could have. When we built, it was clearly restricted. When I could move in, my lawn had to be in first or whatever. Very, 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 very specific. And it seemed like, okay, so Saco had some ideas of where they were going. But it seems to take all of that and make suddenly everything urban, essentially, if you can put a tremendous amount of units on one little lot. So it's all of these things, and traffic and infrastructure and all that, but I think there is the whole thing of what do people move to a city like Saco for? And I don't think it's to be super urban. Just a thought. So hopefully we can vote no.
Thank you. Any further public comment? With nobody seeking recognition, Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. I move to close the public hearing on Chapter 230 LD 2003 Housing Ordinance Revisions, and further move to schedule the second and final reading for September 25th, 2023.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councillor Gunn, second by Councillor Johnston, to close public hearing and set final reading for September 25th, 2023. Any discussion? Councillor Berman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to publicly acknowledge all the members of Ward 4 who came out to speak. Thank you so much for the articulate testimony. I know I've spoken with many of you on the phone or in small meetings, and I really appreciate you guys coming out tonight and hope to see you again on September 25th.
Any further discussion? Councillor Archer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to say anything until I started talking with another councilor of mine. Just to help to inform the public that at present, none of these conditions are actually on the LDR. If you go ahead and look at our agenda and you go down to the housing ordinance revision and you look at, sorry, I just lost it. If you go and actually look at the map, it would say in red that it's being added. So we're actually not voting. Would need an amendment from the floor to be added, not to be deleted. I just wanted to make that, so if you go look at your own records, your comments are valued, of course, but I just want to make sure that you realize that at present, it's not actually a use as permitted or conditional under LDR. I have LDR in Ward 1 over near the Berry Road and stuff like that, and just wanted to make sure that, just to be informed is all I have to say. And again, you can go to our agenda, go ahead and look exactly what I had. Councilor and I were just discussing it, and we just wanted to make sure that you were aware of what we're actually voting on in 2 weeks. We would have to add it. A single councilor seconded and then voted on. So at present, it's not in there. So just thought that might be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Councillor Gunn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to piggyback a little bit on Councilor Archer's comments, because as the planning board liaison, the discussion, long and the short of it, did deadlock on the issue for the simple reason that, and I express my sympathies to the planning board for the simple reason that, as some members of the public have mentioned, we have our comprehensive plan, we have our set zoning, and then effectively out of the sky comes LT 2003 with noble intents. And at the same time, though, when it comes down from Augusta, whether or not how it hits different communities has different effects. And former Mayor Michou's comments, though, Saco has been ahead of the curve on a lot of things when it comes to our zoning, though, and that's one of the reasons why we have not had to sort of reinvent the wheel when it comes to complying with LD 2003. So that's the good news, that we are not communities that were so out of the spirit of 2003 that it really is a night and day difference in terms of zoning. So you don't have to worry about that. But the issue for housing when it comes to low density, like I said, the planning board deadlocked on that one issue. So in 2 weeks, when we sit here and have a final vote on it, though, we will have a robust discussion, and we can take the planning board's comments and basically kind of hash them out between the seven of us, and we will see what we come to. But aside from that, there's been no final decision one way or the other, though. So all things being fair, I encourage you all to come in 2 weeks and hear us debate it, because there is no final decision at this point and no general consensus about how we're going to go on this, aside from, of course, being in compliance with 2003. That is the one thing that is not debatable. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Again, this item will be before us on the 25th. Roll call vote, Counsel Archer.
Aye.
Counsellor Purdy.
Yes.
Counsellor Gunn.
Yes.
Counsellor Berman.
Yes.
Counsellor Hatch.
Yes.
Counsellor McPhail.
Yes.
Counsellor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to close the public hearing and set final reading for September 25th, 2023. With that brings us to item D, a first reading, Chapter 230, Article 12, Stormwater and Erosion Control, proposed ordinance amendments on page 65 in your packet, assigned to Councilor Gunn.
You don't want to stick around for this? It's pretty good. Okay. Here we go. Here, you all get to stay for the fun stuff here. Okay, here we go. Public Works and Planning staff are recommending amendments to the Stormwater and Erosion Control Ordinance to ensure that required MS4 permit provisions to which the city must comply are properly reflected in local ordinance. This recommended amendment also includes updating cross-references to other ordinance sections and the city's Technical Design Construction Standards Manual. City staff is asking the City Council to forward these recommendations to the Planning Board to follow the ordinance revision process outlined in Section 230/1701. It should be noted that Public Works and Planning staff are collaborating on a separate low-impact development initiative and will return to the City Council on that matter at a separate meeting date. I move to approve the first reading of the Chapter 230, Article 12, Stormwater Ordinance Revisions, and to forward to the Planning Board per Section 230-1701 of the City Code for a report back in Council, and further, to schedule City Council's public hearing regarding these revisions on October 16th, 2023.
Motion's been made by Councilor Gunn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Hatch. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Council Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item E on page 75 in your packet, a public hearing / final reading, Charter Amendment Number 1, Section 2.07, Powers and Duties of the Mayor, assigned to Councilor Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council endeavors to make a few amendments to the Charter as described in MRSA Title 30A, Chapter 111, Section 2104. The process for making amendments to the Charter requires a public hearing before a vote by Council. Additionally, if approved by Council, the item would be voted in referendum by the public in November. Charter Amendment Number 1, Section 2.07, Powers and Duties of the Mayor. These are exhibits, forgive me. So there's exhibits that I've proposed. There's also subsequent amendments proposed by Councilor Berman. Reading through the exhibits, the strike-throughs represent languages to be deleted, while underline represents new language. Only sections and subsections of the Charter that have a change are shown in the exhibits. The amendment is not meant to remove or change any other aspect of the Charter. Councilor Berman has proposed the following amendments attached here to as Exhibit 2 to Charter Amendment Number 1, which is the one that I've proposed, which would make an amendment to each occurrence of the word domiciled into registered voter, amendment to change the timeline to 60 days for the mayor to nominate and 90 days before council fills the vacancy, an amendment for adding the notification of the city clerk regarding conditions determining vacancy, and amendment for changing the resignation letter procedure. I move to open the public hearing.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion on opening the public hearing? Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open at 7:40 PM. If there's any member of the public who would like to speak on this item, Charter Amendment Number 1, please come forward and be heard.
Hi, Kelly Archer, 185 Bradley Street, once more. I've read over the amendments, and I would like to hear more conversation about the 60 days to the 90 days. I understand it was the 30 days originally for the council to then take action. I like the 60 days, but I think the 90 days is stretching it somewhat too much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? With nobody seeking recognition, Counselor Johnston?
Move to close the public hearing.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Roll call to close. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes to close the public hearing 7-0 at 7:42 p.m. Counselor Johnston, do you have a further motion?
I do. I'd like to just clarify before I read what's here that this is just my original amendment. It does not include what Councilor Berman has proposed. He would have to make his own subsequent amendment. But with that said, the City of Saco hereby ordains and approves the final reading of Saco City Charter Amendment Number 1, 2.07, Powers and Duties of the Mayor, dated July 25th, 2023, and further orders that the amendment be placed on the November 7th, 2023 ballot. This amendment, if approved by the voters, would have an effective date of January 1, 2024.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion? Counselor Berman?
And Mr. Mayor, as you know, I have 4 amendments I'd like to propose to this charter amendment because I believe they may engender different levels of support, and because they have different rationales, I believe the best way to proceed is to make them one at a time. So I apologize for taking the time to do that, but I believe that's the best way to proceed. Because I believe that domiciled is not a legal term in our charter and therefore may engender some confusion, while I support the idea and what I believe is the goal of Councilor Johnston, I would like to move to amend his amendment to change each occurrence of domiciled into registered voter, as notated on my proposed amendments.
Motion's been made by Counselor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion on the amendment to change the word domiciled to registered voter? Counselor Johnston?
Thank you. Yeah, so I had struggled with this initially, trying to figure out the appropriate term. I arrived at domicile. My understanding of the term, at least in the state of Maine, actually runs right in line with what a registered voter is. It has long standing with common law concepts. So honestly, I think the registered voter, makes it even further understood that, again, an individual has to have some kind of buy-in to the city of Saco versus just what residency is, which, based on the definition, pretty much anybody could claim residency anywhere. So I'm supportive of that change.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Roll call vote, Counsel Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Amendment passes 7-0. That brings us to another amendment, Counselor Berman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I saw Councilor Johnston's suggested timeline in the amendment, and I was worried that given the suddenness which some vacancies can occur, the need to advertise that there is a vacancy, perhaps in order to engender applications, time for the mayor to review those applications, perhaps in contacting the applicants, and then getting those names onto a council agenda in time for council to consider it. 30 days may not be enough time. I think 60 days is a more reasonable window of time for a working part-time mayor to engage in all of those tasks. That's the first 60-day number. Councilor Johnston's amendment then allows for another 30 days if the first nomination fails to be approved by council. This still allows those extra 30 days, creating the second 90-day number, as you can see outlined in my language. So this gives the mayor 60 days for the first nomination to bring to council. All right, time to go through the applications, interview the candidates, make a recommendation, and get it onto an agenda. If in the event no candidates fill the vacancy, the mayor has another 30 days. So that's the rationale. And I move to make that amendment.
Amendment's been made by Counselor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Gunn. Any discussion? Counselor Johnston?
Thank you. Again, I appreciate the discussion on this, but going back to the original intent of this proposed amendment, it was to ensure that we have timely filling of vacancies. The current charter states 30 days. It has for as long as I could find. I think it's an ample amount of time if the effort is made to fill those vacancies. And again, the language is very weak right now, so it has been allowed at times in the past to have vacancies go for well on past 30 days, up to a year even. So the idea of now further extending it later, I think we kind of lose sight of what the intent was. While I can understand and appreciate where Councilor Berman is coming from, I think that what I've proposed is probably, well, clearly I proposed it. I think it's best from my standpoint anyway.
Counselor Gunn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I do appreciate Councilor Johnston's sentiment on that, though, because we do have our pre-existing language, and in circumstances in the past, and this has occurred over a period of many years and many different mayors, that the 30 days does pass and we still don't have appointments. I kind of see this as, I see Councilor Berman's amendment as solving two issues here. One, by putting the language hard and fast at 90 days, there's literally no excuses, though. So we can have a situation where we can, the city clerk can basically, inform the council that the next meeting is going to be 90 days or whatever is closest to, 90 days. It ends up being 93 or 94, depending on how the meeting is. At that time, then time is up, and that's up to the council. And my second point would be for the simple reason that, and the mayor and I have had this conversation many times, that, it's just sometimes there are batches of times, the worst of COVID being the most obvious example, the volunteers aren't out there. And we can advertise it from here, we can advertise it on our website. Getting folks out to volunteer, sometimes it's cyclical, and sometimes we can't get people. So in order to respect the spirit of the mayor having the first choice, I think giving it the 90 days, which really, it's the 60 for the first choice and an extra 30 for a second, does cover us. And I think it respects the spirit of the mayor's role as being the first person to choose. But I think if it gets past 90 days, then by having the language kind of hard and fast, then it befalls to the council. I think it's fair, more fair for the process overall. So that's why I'm inclined to support Councilor Berman in this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this amendment? On the amendment to the amendment? No further discussion. A roll call vote. Council Archer?
No.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn,
Yes.
Counselor Berman,
Yes.
Counselor Hatch,
No.
Counselor McPhail,
No.
and Counselor Johnston.
No.
The amendment fails. Counselor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also appreciate Councilor Johnston's definition of when a vacancy occurs and the listing of the 6 times in which a vacancy on a commission may occur. However, I note that a vacancy, one of those events, may occur without the city clerk, or the mayor being notified, essentially starting the clock on the need to fill that vacancy prior to the mayor's actual ability to fill that vacancy. Therefore, I believe it's important that the vacancy be considered starting when the city clerk becomes aware of the conditions determining that vacancy, and wish to add the language notification of the city clerk about into the sentence: "A vacancy in the membership on a municipal board, committee, commission, or other appointed position shall be determined upon notification of the city clerk about occurrence of any of the following." I move to make that amendment.
Counselor Berman's made the amendment here to change the language to the effective date of the resignation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion? Counselor Johnston.
Yeah, I would just, again, I support that. I think it kind of cleans it up and makes the city clerk kind of the clearinghouse, so it's not, you know, one counselor heard, and then it becomes a he said, she said type deal. Once the city clerk is notified, then a vacancy is confirmed. So I appreciate your editing that for me.
Any further discussion on this item, on this amendment? Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
The amendment passes 7-0. Counselor Berman, do you have another amendment?
One more amendment, Mr. Mayor. I believe the way the charter amendment was written, a letter stating a council member or a committee member intends to resign would effectively cause that committee member to resign, because it's the date the resignation is received. I believe there are situations in which one may write a letter saying, "I wish to resign on some future date, at which time I will leave the city, at which time I become too busy, at which time my job prohibits, on which time whatever." And I believe we should recognize that date of resignation as the effective date, not the date the letter was received. And so this is intended to make the effective date of the resignation the one written in the letter, rather than a date of receival of the letter. And because of that, I believe if the circumstances change after the letter is written, but before the effective date, the resignation should be allowed to be withdrawn. So this amendment actually makes 2 changes. It strikes the line, "The resignation may not be withdrawn," and it adds language, "effective date of the resignation," into the paragraph.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Second by Counselor McPhail. Any discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Counselor Johnston?
Thank you. So again, this is another one that when drafting the original proposal, I wrestled with really at length, because, you know, as the mayor had stated several weeks ago, I also, you know, didn't necessarily want to discourage people from participating, but at the same time, the longer I thought about it, you know, we're all adults, so if we're dealing with adults, people really shouldn't say, "I'm going to resign," until they're really ready to resign. And the reason this even came forth to begin with, in my mind, is because I was aware of a situation on my time on council, actually serving as deputy mayor, where an individual had informed the mayor, "I'm resigning." The mayor went out, found a suitable replacement, actually put it on the agenda, and then a week later, that individual said, "Oh, I'm kidding," you know, for lack of a better term. And then they wanted their seat back. So the mayor was left going back to an individual and telling them, "Hey, I'm sorry. I know I said I was going to appoint you, but now I can't." And so that was really the spirit of this. Additionally, if the intent was to set real procedures here, you can't have an individual that says they resign, everybody's informed, the mayor goes out and again, seek somebody to replace, and then someone switches their mind. So, I mean, that's where I was coming from with it. Again, it goes back to that timely filling of vacancies. And additionally, I can see where an instance can occur with your second amendment, Councilor Berman, where going off a future date, right? And I know of, again, instances of where this has occurred before. Someone says, I'm going to resign 6 months from now. And for most of these committees, it's probably not a problem, but I can see where a matter of conflict could come about where, particularly on some of these, judicial review or quasi-judicial review bodies, where an individual says, I'm going to resign on such a day 6 months from now, and then they sit through an entire hearing on an applicant and basically hold that just until they can have their say in that vote and then resign immediately after. And I'm not saying there's necessarily a problem with that. And honestly, if they just didn't say anything until after it occurred, it'd be fine. But from a transparent standpoint, I can see where members of the public or an applicant might feel something shady occurred. And so just to avoid that, resign when you're really ready to resign, not give me a date 6 months or 3 weeks from now. And so that's really where, again, I spent a lot of time reading this and going through it, coming up with what I thought was pretty good. I'm not saying it's perfect, but what I felt was a pretty good set of standards that we really don't have currently. So, I mean, obviously I'll support wherever this goes, but that was my logic behind it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this amendment to the amendment? Again, the amendment is to remove the language in the second sentence, starting with the resignation may not be withdrawn, and T, and then capital T, the member's office shall become vacant on the effective date of resignation. That would be the new language inserted, and date the resignation was received would be removed. Councilor Archer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is less about, I don't like the whole part of the resignation, maybe not withdrawn, but I'm also trying to think of if a person was to say, I'm going to resign at the end of the month, and then they withdraw, once they've informed the mayor, can the mayor just deny it? I do not accept your withdrawal. You are resigning at the end of the month. I've accepted you. Once you've accepted it, wouldn't it be the mayor to make that decision? Go ahead, guys. As a mayor, you could give your...
So because the language says that it goes to the chair, the mayor, or the city clerk, then yes, I think the mayor could not accept the withdrawal. However, I would not encourage that because, again, as I stated from the podium 2 weeks ago, the value of member participation is exceptional, and so why would you want us? And I'll give you the reasoning. Let's say I plan on moving, and I tell you 6 months ahead of time, hey, I think I'm getting ready to move, but then I don't move, and I don't want to give up the seat. So why wouldn't you want somebody to be transparent and open ahead of time rather than just drop a bomb on you and say, hey, you know what, I'm leaving?
As written, I'm actually going to, more supportive of how it's written with this understanding that the mayor could deny that withdrawal. Giving the power to the mayor to make that decision here and there and not have it be a charter that forces your hand to let this say is, you made a date, I've accepted your date as October 1st, you've chosen to withdraw, I'm denying it.
That's how I understand the rules and order of business and the charter itself.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councilor McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Berman would offer up a friendly amendment to change that so that it would read, the resignation may not be withdrawn once an appointment has been made or a suitable replacement.
So the council wouldn't take up appointing somebody until the vacancy occurred. So we wouldn't preemptively put somebody on the agenda to fill the vacancy until the vacancy is actually had. So I don't know if that answers.
Well, that was to Councilor Johnston's point by saying that if somebody once in the past there's been an appointment made or a suitable replacement, and then the person has said that they were withdrawing. So that was to point out Councilor Johnston's in the event, let's say somebody said, okay, we are moving, I'm giving my effective date 6 months down the road, mayor finds it, and then, and again, you wouldn't be doing the appointment probably within a couple of weeks prior to. You wouldn't be making the appointment 6 months based on the effective date and having it set.
The mayor wouldn't make the appointment until there's a vacancy. So you would have to wait the 6 months until the person actually left the seat.
Right.
And then, the next agenda, make an appointment. If there's, again, if there's people that are waiting to be on those boards and committees. So, Councilor McPhail, I'm trying to amend this, and can you repeat the language?
Well, I'd do a friendly amendment if Councilor Berman just wants to change his original or leave it as is.
Thank you. Councilor Berman?
Yeah, so the way I read this language, one could, if this amendment to the amendment passes, one could submit a written resignation with some future date for whatever reason. Right, once that resignation is submitted, it goes to the chairperson, the mayor, the council, and the clerk. The language would now be silent on the ability to withdraw that resignation. That would be a decision to be made by that group and council, I presume, about whether a resignation could be withdrawn. But the office automatically becomes vacant on the effective date of resignation. So if you say I'm resigning on October 1st and October 2nd you still haven't moved, that's a moot point. The clerk has been notified that there's a vacancy. The vacancy is now in effect. The appointment procedure would begin. So at that point, once the mayor has somebody on an agenda to appoint as your replacement, there's a vacancy. It's already vacant. You're not in the office anymore.
And just so we're all clear, going back to Councilor Archer, it is up to the mayor to make appointments, and therefore the mayor can say no, that they're not willing to let somebody serve. Again, I don't know that that's the prudent way to do it, but if somebody wanted to withdraw their resignation, they could inquire with the mayor, because the mayor does make the appointments. So, any further discussion on this?
So
Councilor McPhail, it doesn't seem like Councilor Berman is agreeable to your friendly
Nope, that's
amendment.
fine.
Councilor Archer.
Withdraw.
we can call this amendment the no takesy-backsy amendment?
Something like that.
Hey, they always come up with laws, and they always have nicknames. This one's the no takesy-backsy.
All right, so the amendment as proposed by Councilor Berman. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. So now the main motion now as amended 3 times. The main motion now as amended 3 times. Any further discussion? Councilor Purdy, then Councilor Gunn.
I'm uncomfortable with having to be a resident of the city for a year or whatever, registered voter, whatever term you want to put on it. I don't necessarily think that you have to be a resident of the city for a year to be valuable to a board or commission, or valuable to the city. I mean, if somebody moves to Saco and 6 months later applies to be on a board or commission, and they're exceptionally qualified, I think that would be a plus to the city. So I'd like to make an amendment to strike well, it says, shall be a resident of the city of Saco. So from after that, I'd like to strike for 1 year prior to the date of appointment by the mayor and confirmation by the council. And from there, it can go on. Was I clear?
I'm just looking for where it is in the...
First paragraph.
First paragraph.
Yeah, sorry, section D.
Thank you. Councilor Purdy has made an amendment to remove shall be a resident of the city of Saco for 1 year prior to the date of appointment by the mayor and confirmation by city council. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Gunn. Any discussion? Councilor Archer.
Yeah, I mean, initially, I'm still kind of for it, but I'm also trying to see is how would we police that? How would we know that you're a resident for 1 year? What would we ask for documentation?
Voter registration, just.
But that, you can be living here for 3 years before you apply to be a registered voter. You don't have to be, you can be a resident and not a registered voter. And I'm just trying to think of how do we police it? How do we confirm? Obviously, being registered voters, that's the easiest. But there's so many other ways in which you could be a resident.
Right, and sorry to interrupt. And
Excuse me, one moment. So usually the application, the resident puts on there how many years or how many months they've been.
Are we taking that for face value, or how do we
I would hope
confirm it, I guess?
I would hope that we take our volunteers at face value until they prove otherwise, because again, we want to value the folks that are coming forward to do the good service that we need them to do. So I would say that given the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're putting on there how long they've been here. If we have to, I guess you could police it, as you say, through voter registration, but also the vision appraisal service of when they purchased their home in the city of Saco.
But if you're a renter or you're
through the
couch
assessor.
surfing,
We-
you're a student.
We can't solve every issue beyond the four corners of the document. The document is a living, breathing thing, so therefore, not every scenario can we put into paper. And so I would just encourage us to, if somebody puts down here that they've been here 5 months or 5 years, we take them at face value for that time. Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. Yeah, so clearly that is a word, being resident, that probably should be adjusted to a registered voter, since we have already decided that is the term where, I guess, policing people off of, for lack of a better term.
It's a Marine Corps term that I just couldn't pick up. I couldn't get to grab the term I wanted.
Yeah, and again, it's just, that's this whole problem with what is a domicile, what is a resident, what is a registered voter, and I mean, to Mike, or to Councilor Berman's point, when you look up what a registered voter is by the state law, as I said earlier, it aligns with domicile, but I specifically like the term registered voter better, honestly, because it implies that, hey, I'm here, this is where I call my home, this is my intent, it's based on intent. This is my home, I may go away, but I'm registered to vote here, I have buy-in in that community. But you're 100% correct, it's really hard to police any of this, honestly, but, I mean, it's an attempt. So, you know, correcting the terms and having a clearer understanding of what we're looking for versus the current language was what I was seeking. So if you still have an issue with, I mean, honestly, I would say that we probably should strike resident and just replace it with shall be a registered voter of the city of Saco for 1 year prior to the date of appointment.
One suggestion is, remember, you guys have the power to confirm. So if you don't want to confirm anyone that doesn't have more than 1 year without putting it in there to allow for, maybe you get the one applicant that has only been here 3 months, and that person has a multitude of great background and so forth, that you can then approve that person versus saying in there that it's blanket 1 year regardless. So you may want to take up the issue on a case-by-case basis rather than just cementing the language. So that would be a possible suggestion. But the motion right now, or the amendment to the amendment as it stands right now, is to remove shall be a resident of the city of Saco for 1 year prior to the appointment. That is the amendment. Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the spirit of what you were just describing, I think it really solves gets the intent of Councilor Purdy's amendment quite succinctly, for the simple reason that I always found the 1 year residency thing a little bit arbitrary for the simple, and I'll use myself as an example. I mean, there was, out of college, back in the city of Saco, after being away for a while, I mean, I spent most of my life in the city of Saco, but I spent many years I was not following the city council as strongly as one person would expect someone who would one day be on the council, but of course, with age comes experience, and you become interested in other things, though. So you have someone who's lived here most of my life, but I had a good period of time where I wasn't paying attention to things, though. But by having the 1 year residency requirement, would allow someone like me in that situation to have had a leg up on somebody who may, have family, friends here, wanted to move to Saco for specific reasons because they liked the cut of our jib and they wanted to not only move here but immediately get involved and get on a board or a committee. And I think, by putting the 1 year in there, it kind of discriminates against that because, like you said, as we have a council, we can look at these applications and see, is this person just looking to fill their resume by showing up and doing things, or is this person, showing up with a Saco Pride hat and they're like, oh, we're ready to go, though, we can make that judgment. So I think by leaving off the 1 year thing and going case by case, though, is the most fair and equitable way to go with this. Because, I mean, remember, at the end of the day, we're talking about, for the most part, volunteer positions, people giving their time freely. We're not talking about having to have basic residency requirements to be elected to the city council or the school board, which is an entirely different thing.
Thank you. Councilor Berman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I suspect the number of applicants to city commissions and committees is relatively low, and the number of applicants who've been in the city of Saco for less than 1 year is even lower. So we may be legislating a problem that doesn't really exist. That being said, the principles for me are twofold. One, there's a benefit of experience, of knowledge of the city, knowledge of its ways, knowledge of its history, knowledge of the issues facing it and how we've gotten there and where our trajectory is going. The second, of course, is we want to encourage people with new ideas and new vision and new ways of looking at things who can bring some of the needed change and different perspectives that can move us forward in ways that we couldn't without those outside perspectives. And when I weigh those two competing values in my mind, a 1 year residency requirement seems reasonable. They have some experience with the city, but they're still relatively new and fresh. So I guess I'm comfortable with the language as written. And again, I feel like we may be solving a problem that doesn't really exist.
Councilor Purdy.
Thank you. Just for clarification, I wasn't taking out the shall be a resident of the city of Saco. It was after shall be a resident of the city of Saco, then cut for 1 year prior to the date of appointment by the mayor and confirmation by city council. And obviously I don't know the names of everybody who serves on every board or commission in the city, but I do read over the applications, and I can remember I can't say who it was or what commission or whatever, but I do know that on more than one occasion I saw a residency of less than a year. So I think anybody's input should be valued. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gunn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in response to Councilor Berman's justification, which I totally understand, I would respectfully disagree that it's not a solution search for a problem, though. If we don't have, I mean, you can attest, Mr. Mayor, though, you've been here at almost the end of 4 years, though, so you can test how often we have batches of people that are interested and how often we have droughts where people aren't interested. And if putting in a 1 year residency requirement or retaining it, however you want to look at it, eliminates 3 or 4 perfectly qualified people, then that's 3 or 4 people that might not get at the ground running. And look at the people that we have that have served this city 20 years, 30 years, and they're valuable members of our community. And to think that someone like that may actually be discouraged from even, going again, because their first item up at bat, they don't get a chance to get on for the simple fact that they've been here 8 months or 9 months out of a year. Just doesn't seem right, though, when we're trying to encourage as many people as possible to be involved. At least that's my philosophy of being in this seat, though, is, not only to govern on people's behalf, though, but encourage other people to step up. And if that includes taking away a one-year residency requirement, because it might mean a couple people being on the board that are otherwise qualified, so be it.
Thank you. Again, if this passes, there is a suggestion out there that if this language passes, you as the council can then decide it on a case-by-case basis, depending on the factors that come in the application, that come in their training, their expertise, their education, length of residency, and when you take all the factors into totality, you can make that decision as a council. Councilor McPhail, then Councilor Johnston.
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up on Councilor Gunn's point with, I would hate to have that one-year restriction, and again, taking it on a case-by-case for, let's say, somebody that may have gone to college, lived in that state for 2 or 3 years, has come back home, started a small family, decided to move back to Maine. Those are the people that we don't want to weed out or not give an opportunity to represent their city. They grew up here, they've lived here, still have the family. So I do agree with the fact that, taking it on a case-by-case basis, and again, that just even goes for anybody that may have moved and decided to come back to Saco. Doesn't mean that they don't know, that they don't have any idea what the city is doing. They may have paid attention. So again, doing it on a case-by-case and removing the one-year requirement.
Thank you, Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. Again, this is another element that I wrestled with for a while, and truth be told, I arrived at the 1 year after, and analyzing several other communities, about 20 of them, and I found it was common, but honestly, and I've had this conversation with other councilors, it really hasn't sat all that well with myself, again, wearing a different set of lenses than I was when I initially was thinking about this. We have certain commissions, say the Art Commission. Do I really want to, prevent somebody from volunteering to be on the Art Commission? They've lived here for 3 months. They might be an incredible artist for all I know. So, at the time I really was looking more, again, along those judicial review bodies like the Planning Board, Zoning Board. I felt they should have a little bit more knowledge of the community before they're put in those roles. But again, as a compromise, and having thought about this in the subsequent weeks, I can address those issues separately through code versus charter, and making it a requirement, for example, a year residency for the planning board versus every board and commission. So I'm actually supportive of Councilor Purdy's amendment here, and I just honestly had intended to submit it myself but missed it. So I'm glad you caught it, because I do think it is important, given the vast amount of committees that we aren't forbidding people that would otherwise be a great member, just based on not having lived here for a year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this amendment to the amendment? Roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Back to the main motion, now as amended 4 times. Back to the main amendment, now amended 4 times. Any discussion? Any further amendments? Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we first talked about this, or when Councilor Johnston first brought this to us a while back, I had told him that just on the merits of it, as it was presented even before Councilor Berman's amendments, I thought it was overall pretty solid, with the exception of one bit of verbiage, and let me get to it here. Okay, under section D and the second paragraph. Let's see here. The city council, this is if the mayor fails to, appoint the position within now 60 days, The city council shall then proceed to fill the vacancy based upon applications received to that date. The reason I have an issue with that one line, based upon applications received to that date, is I feel that it, how do I put this though? It potentially ties this council's hands in a way that's not, I don't think it was intended, and I'd be curious to get Councilor Johnson's input on this, because this is how I would approach it, though. If the mayor has received applications and not made an appointment, it is my understanding that the mayor has the judgment to put forward their choice for any position based upon their reading of the applications. Now, if the mayor decides, based on the applications that he's received, that none of those people meet his qualifications, he's not going to put those people up. So therefore, we get to the end of the period in which he is allowed to make the appointment. If it goes to the council, we could be in a situation where we are aware that there's perfectly qualified people out there, and we haven't got them to apply yet, but we know that they're interested. And rather than encourage actively, as counselors, those people to apply, and then us having the ability to nominate from the floor, and second, and have the debate like we would, which I think would be the procedure, we would have to, again, my understanding, and I've read this several times, I'm trying to make sure I'm reading this correctly, is based on this verbiage, I would have to basically, as a counselor, sit here with these two or three or however people that have applied, that the mayor has decided they do not meet the standard of being applied, and that we would have to vote for any one of these people when we know there's plenty of probably candidates out there to be had, or our own choice. But we're not getting our own choice. We are limiting our own choice to people the mayor himself didn't want. And if I'm reading this right, could I construe this that the council could then basically go through this list of people, and if we decide that none of these people are up to snuff, that we can vote, we can still, it doesn't interfere with our ability to vote them all down, and then we're still well within the period where we can then nominate from the floor. Would that be a prudent way of looking at it? That is an open question that I hope that Councilor Johnston would like take up, because obviously he was the author of this.
I mean, the language is pretty clear, based upon applications received to date. So however many applications are in there for a certain position, you know, if you have 5 applicants and the mayor, whomever the mayor is, decided not to put any of them up, you get to choose as a council from those applicants. You don't have the ability to go out and say, well, I know so-and-so has a degree. Let me see if they're interested. You won't have that by virtue of the language, as I understand it. The language, you know, makes it so that based upon applications received to date. Councilor Johnston, would that be correct?
That is how I read it. But at first I would say, and I recommend all current counselors and future counselors, it really just comes down to telling everybody you meet that shows any interest to apply for something, right? Like we always hear, oh, people aren't applying. I meet people all the time. They're like, oh, I'm interested in this, and I tell them to apply. I'm not saying they necessarily apply, but again, the larger issue is encouraging that participation. There hopefully is a list, and hopefully in the extremely rare case that a mayor isn't, making an appointment, the attempt here was the current language reads, again, that if the mayor makes an appointment within 30 days, if that isn't, if he doesn't or she doesn't, the city council then shall proceed to fill the vacancy. And that was my challenge with this for years, because how does a council fill the vacancy? It didn't seem like there was a process. I had asked, legal, and I was like, well, it's not clear. So the attempt was to clear it up and formulate what we have been using for as long as I can remember, which is an application process. But there's nothing in charter that says there is an application process. It's just what the city has been using by default. So again, it's falling back on the idea that we will have applications that have been received. And again, if you're a counselor and you know somebody, that you hope to apply, encourage them to apply, and hopefully you will have those alternatives. But I do understand what Councilor Gunn is saying. You could be put into a precarious situation where, for very good reasons, the mayor doesn't want to appoint who has been, who has applied, and then council would be left to make a decision. So looking at the language here, I think that at the end of based upon applications received to date, period, you could leave that, but then put, if in the event no candidates fulfilling the vacant membership has applied, or no suitable candidates, the mayor shall be provided the opportunity to appoint within another 30 days. So that way you kind of cover the again, rare instance, I would think, that an individual isn't deemed suitable by the mayor and the council might be put into a situation where they have to appoint somebody else that might equally not be suitable. So I don't.
Councilor
We don't
Johnston,
really
are
have an
you making
amendment.
that amendment?
Sure. I mean, we can continue to discuss. I'm not necessarily sure my language is 100%, good, but I think it solves the issue that Councilor Gunn is speaking to.
So if I understand your amendment, based upon applications received to date, will continue to stay.
Correct.
But in the event that no candidates fulfilling the vacant membership has applied,
Or no suitable candidate has been, help me out, people, found or identified.
Brought forward or
Brought forward.
come forward, I would say, probably be more accurate.
or no suitable candidate identified,
Yeah, like
the
identified.
mayor shall be provided the opportunity to appoint within another 30 days.
Correct.
Is there a second to that proposed amendment?
I'll second.
Councilor Berman and Councilor Gunn. Okay, now talking about the amendment, to the amendment. Any further discussion? Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The intent of Councilor Johnston's amendment seems to satisfy my concerns, although I just want one more clarification. I wish Tim Murphy was here for the, is Tim Murphy here? I can't say. Yeah, gotta get the prescription up. Just so I'm clear on this, the council is not compelled to vote yes on one of the existing candidates that the mayor did not want to appoint in 30 days. So we still have the right to basically not vote for any of them. We're not basically preventing us from basically voting down people that we may not think are qualified, just like you wouldn't think they were qualified. Even if that we get into the situation, just so I'm clear with this language, would that be accurate?
Well, I mean, there is the word shall in there.
That's
so
what gives me the
City
willies.
council shall then proceed to fill the vacancy based upon the applications to date. Shall doesn't mean may, shall means shall. So I think you may want to adjust that language to read may instead of shall.
Well, that's the current language, though. So shall exists today, and we've had instances where the council has not moved forward with filling vacancies. So I understand the concern, and I think we're starting to probably overanalyze this. Given the fact that you're talking about, it would take a legal challenge at Superior Court on this, at this level, to say, oh, well, the council didn't follow what they said they were going to do. They said they were going to pick somebody, and they didn't. And again, what I proposed gives us an out. Basically, we said, hey, the people that applied weren't qualified, and we can move forward with continuing that process. I don't think we need to get, really down into the weeds on this.
Councilor Berman. Did you have?
I withdraw my comment.
Councilor Gunn.
Well, like I said, the existence of shall is problematic, though, but with the additive of Councilor Johnston's friendly amendment, if the person isn't qualified, I think that may give us some coverage, because basically we would just have to state from the podium that if we vote people down, I mean, we may have to hurt some people's feelings, that we'd have to actually say legally out loud that, no, we don't think you're qualified, and that's why we're satisfying these conditions of the charter, because, like I said, I don't care if it's getting in the weeds or not. I'm not in a position where I'm going to approve something and send it to the voters that basically says that the sovereign power of the council to vote up or down, yes or no, is curbed by verbiage just if it gets that situation. We have the right to vote yes or no on any issue that we feel fit, and putting shall in there to say, no, you will vote for these two people whether you like it or not, after the mayor has said, or three people, however many it is, after the mayor said no, I'm not ready to sign up for. So if we are content as a group that the added language that Councilor Johnson just added will cover us, then I will support this. But if we're not, then I would not encourage us to go forward on this.
Thank you. Councilor Berman. Seems you've found your statement.
Councilor Gunn convinced me to say what I had to say. So I like the shall. I believe the purpose of this amendment is to ensure that the vacancies on our committees and commissions get filled. We have the 30-day period, we have the 60-day period. If in the first 30 days there aren't adequate applicants, I think it behooves all of us to seek people to apply in that next 30-day period so that there are indeed qualified candidates when it comes down to that second period when, once again, we shall fill the vacancy. It's hard for me to imagine that we would have a number of applicants and all of them would be worse than no one at all in that seat, which is where it would lead if we don't fill the vacancy. So I'm comfortable with the amendment Councilor Johnson's proposed and our concerns about vacancies. I'm comfortable with the shells.
Any further discussion? I mean, I can tell you that I think there's only 2 positions that remain unfilled at this moment in time. That is it, out of all the boards and commissions and committees that we have. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, on the amendment, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Amendment passes 7-0. Back to the main motion, now as amended 5 times. Back to the main amendment to the charter. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to item F on page 79 in your packet, a public hearing, special entertainment permit for Biddeford Saco Elks Lodge, number 1597, assigned to Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Biddeford Saco Elks Lodge number 1597 has applied for a renewal of their special entertainment permit. The permit will be concurrent with the establishment's liquor license. The applicant has paid all applicable permit fees, and the clerk has properly advertised the public hearing in accordance with the Saco City Code, Chapter 93, Entertainment, subsection 93-2. I move to open the public hearing.
Motion's been made by Councilor Gunn to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Councilor Hatch. Any discussion? Roll call to open the public hearing. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 at 8:34. Is there any member of the public who would like to address the City Council on this item for a special entertainment permit for Biddeford Saco Elks Lodge? Please come forward and be heard. With nobody seeking recognition, Councilor Gunn.
Thank you. I move to close the public hearing and be it ordered that the City Council grant the renewal application submitted by Biddeford Saco Elks Lodge number 1597 for a special entertainment permit to be concurrent with the establishment's current liquor license. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Councilor Gunn. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Councilor Hatch. Any discussion? Roll call to close and approve. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hanch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to approve at 8:34 PM. That brings us to item G on page 81 in your packet. Public hearing on special entertainment permit for Island Brewing doing business as the run-of-the-mill assigned to Counselor Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Island Brewing LLC, doing business as the run-of-the-mill, has applied for a renewal of their special entertainment permit. The permit would be concurrent with the establishment's liquor license. The applicant has paid all applicable permit fees, and the clerk has properly advertised the public hearing in accordance with Saco City Code, Chapter 93, Entertainment, Section 93-2. I move to open the public hearing.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Counselor Hatch to open the public hearing. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes to open the public hearing 7-0 at 8:35 PM. Any member of the public wanting to speak to the city council on this item, the special entertainment permit for run-of-the-mill, please come forward and be heard. With nobody seeking recognition, Counselor Johnston?
I move to close the public hearing and be it ordered that the city council grant the renewal application submitted by Island Brewing LLC, doing business as the run-of-the-mill, for a special entertainment permit to be concurrent with the establishment's current liquor license. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion? Roll call to close and approve. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 at 8:36 PM. That concludes the action items this evening and brings us to item 10, new business. On page 83, item A is an informational update, possible grant for Saco Water Resource Recovery Project assigned to Councilor McPhail. I believe we're going to have a presentation from Howard Carter, the director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Not really much of a presentation. You got the write-up. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's starting to get out in the press a little bit, so I just wanted to bring her up to speed. So we've been identified for further review. What that means is Region 1, which is New England, New York, are going to generate questions for us, because this is a national award. We're one of 124 in the country, and the first one in the state of Maine. So the state of Maine's actually following this one pretty close as well. So they'll generate some questions for us, request for more information, hopefully within the next 3-4 weeks, and then we'll have to respond to those, and those go back in. But this doesn't come without its own issues as well. This could delay our project for a short to a significant amount of time. And we'll have overlap in federal grants here, so we're going to have to be quite cognizant of how we're doing the money. We've have to bring the finance department up to speed, and we're working with our engineering firm that's done these brick grants as well before. So it's a lot to it, and I really want to thank Emily Cole Prescott for her help on this. She was really a big part of writing this grant, and her skill set just fell right into it. But with that, any questions on this?
Councilor Berman?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When you say it may delay, do you have any idea of how much it may delay and what the timeline for that decision is? And second, just to clarify, it's the potential for $9,387,000 or whatever?
That is correct. Well, when the brick first came out a few years ago, they were talking delays of a year. Now, we've already, as you know, we've got a contractor on board. We've already selected some of their subcontractors. We haven't quite signed the contract yet because we're working through some right title and interest issues, but they're ready to go at any time. MEMA, which is the main department of FEMA, thinks maybe it can be 3 or 4 months. We really don't know that. So we're going to reach out to our contractor this week and see what they feel about that. Is that going to come with any penalties? We don't really know at this point, but I'll certainly keep you in the loop. But do you sacrifice some money to get $9 million? I guess that's really where we're going to be at. So,
And and the project can't begin before the money is awarded? Is that the idea? It's a
Well,
$50 million project. Can it be staged
Well,
in such a way?
Right. That's what they told us initially, but we were quite clear in our application that we'd have already selected a contractor, and this is a phased project. So we need to get some clarity on that as well. So right now, we're waiting for these requests for information to come out in the next few weeks, and then we're gonna go back, meet with the main office, and see if we have more than one federal funding coming in. Can this all run through the DEP like we're doing with our grants that we have listed here? The DEP administers all those. Now, how it works with MEMA and FEMA, we're really unclear about that.
And then it looks like there's about $9 million in current federal funding.
Mhm.
And there's about $9 million that we're looking for from this BRIC process.
Right.
So we'd hate to put $9 million in jeopardy for the potential to get 9. That's just an even wash, right?
Well, yeah, I don't think we jeopardize the other, but that's really where we're at, Counselor. We're trying to get a handle on this.
Perfect.
We've got ourselves, our team, John, city administrator certainly knows about it, and our engineering firm as well, so.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else?
Councilor McPhail, do you want to be the council liaison on this, as you were you were on the Resiliency Committee?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. Councilor Hatch, did you have a question?
Just a comment. This is a major coup, so I appreciate the effort that you've all put in on this, and, these cost overruns that I think we didn't anticipate that might occur.
Oh, yeah.
You're
Well-
going to have yourself a cushion to handle those very well, so kudos.
No, thank you. Big part of the team. Yep, certainly Emily. And we're looking forward to it. It all comes with challenges, so. All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you very much. That concludes new business. That brings us to item 11, administrative update, interim city administrator Duras.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have 5 items this evening. First is the annual employee appreciation event. We'll be hosting that event on September 28th between 11:30 a.m. and 1 o'clock p.m. We look forward to celebrating with our staff and showing our appreciation for all their hard work and dedication. To facilitate this, City Hall offices will be closed during the time to allow customer-facing employees an opportunity to participate. We appreciate your understanding. I have an RFP notification for merchant services. The City of Saco seeks proposals from merchant services providers to consolidate processing and receipt of electronic payments across the city's departments. Proposals will be accepted until September 29th, 2023 at 5 p.m. by email to the City Finance Director, Jerry Mathine. For all details and the complete RFP package, please visit the city's website, www.sacomaine.org. I have an update for you on the planning board meeting recordings. Video recordings of in-person planning boards began on August 15, 2023, which you can find on the city's website and the YouTube channel. City staff are exploring other ways to further increase meeting accessibility by live streaming planning board and city council meetings directly on the City of Saco website, while also maintaining the existing YouTube streaming designation. Route 1 traffic signal project upgrade. The City of Saco is soliciting bids for a Route 1 traffic signal upgrade project. Bids will be accepted until Wednesday, September 27th, 2023 at 1 p.m. Please visit the bids and RFP page on the city website or contact Public Works for more information. And finally, another RFP notification for battery-powered extrication tools. The City of Saco Fire Department seeks proposals from qualified vendors for battery-powered extrication tools. Sealed proposals will be accepted until October 2nd, 2023 at 1 p.m. at Saco City Hall. The complete RFP package can be found by visiting the city's website or by contacting Deputy Fire Chief Robert Martin at Central Fire Station.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the administrative update? Moving on to item 12, Council discussion and comment. Council discussion and comment this evening. Moving on to item 13. Oh, my apologies. Councilor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. As a result of earlier comments that were made by the public, I think I'd like to have a handle on where we are with the grievance status and at least communicate to the public where we are with that. And are we moving forward with some initiatives? I think the public is curious as to where we are with things. And I think they deserve some sort of response, whether it's a high level, we're working on it, and we expect to have some issues resolved here shortly, or we're not moving at all.
City Administrator Duras will send something out here momentarily in the next couple days or a week, providing update. But as you were made aware by him earlier, last week or so, we are scheduling the item to come up within business, when business allows. So
Fair enough. Okay. And then my second question is, and I brought it up previously, and I'm sure it's on the schedule. I just want to be clear that at some point we're planning to have the school board before us so we can get an update on the school situation.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Council Archer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to the first point on the grievance, if we can expedite it, that'd be greatly appreciated. That's it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Any further council discussion and comment? Moving on to item 13, executive session. Is there a motion to enter executive session? Councilor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. Be it ordered that the City Council enter into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 4056, A, personal matter, and E, discussion regarding recommendations by legal counsel.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor McPhail. Any discussion? Roll call to enter executive session. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 at 8:47. We will take a 5-minute recess. Then we will meet in the City Administrator's Conference Room for executive session. Again, 5-minute recess. Okay, greetings and welcome back. Time is 9:59. I'll entertain a motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
Counselor Hatch, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Berman, any discussion? Roll call to exit. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Report out of executive session. Counselor Berman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the city consent to the proposed settlement negotiated by the city's insurer in Cadlick versus City of Saco, and that the city authorize the interim city administrator or his designee to execute any documents necessary to effectuate the proposed settlement.
Motion's been made by Counselor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Yes.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
No.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
No.
Motion passes 5-2. Counselor Johnston, do you have a motion?
I do. I move to authorize the mayor to enter into negotiations with a city administrator candidate.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor McPhail, tied with Counselor Berman. Any discussion? A roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. That concludes the report from executive session, unless anybody has anything further. Seeing nothing, that brings us to item 15. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Counselor Hatch, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Berman, any discussion? Roll call to adjourn. Counselor Archer?
No.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1 to adjourn at 10 p.m. Have a great evening, everyone.